Thank you for watching the Weatherquest farming forecast recorded on Friday the 7th of June 2019. We're going to start this farming forecast by checking in on the conditions over in the United States. We've talked about it a lot over the last few farming forecasts, but still dealing with a lot of flooding issues across the Midwest and the Great Plains of the United States, and this image taken in Oklahoma not too long ago. The Mississippi River has been in flood stage for longer than it has been at any point in the last 90 years. You have to go back to the Great Flood of 1927 to find a longer flood stage period across the Mississippi River. But there is some decent news for farmers, especially the farmers in the Great Plains over the next 7 days. So this map here is showing us rainfall totals over the next 7 days, taking us up to about the 13th of June. And you can see the heavier rain showing up in the reds here across the eastern seaboard in the southeastern part of the United States. And still some rain though to fall in the Ohio and Mississippi River Valley. So that could still continue to cause some flooding issues down the Mississippi into the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas over the next 5 or 6 days. But conditions a little bit drier, still some rain out in the Great Plains, but a little bit drier, particularly for parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. So that'll be a welcomed sign for the farmers still trying to dry out in that part of the world. Across Eastern Europe and Western Russia, it's been a different story really for the last for the last year or so, but conditions have been quite favorable for growing over there, and particularly the wheat production well ahead of what it normally is. And this map just showing us the last 7 days of rainfall, but the yellows and browns showing us quite small amounts of rain, combining that with some very hot weather that they've had, which we'll mention in just a little while in the forecast section. But you can see the green splodges here. So with the hot weather, there have been some scattered showers and thunderstorms too. So just to point out, we're looking at the Baltic states here, Belarus, the Ukraine, and out into Western Russia. But in general, some very good growing conditions, and wheat expectations pretty high for those areas over the coming season. Now, looking at the UK, we have been dealing with this prolonged dry period of weather. So I just wanted to highlight the last 4 seasons that we've had. So this goes back to the summer of 2018, where we've been much drier than average across much of the British Isles, really, and particularly those central and eastern parts of England last summer, along with the hot weather, and stayed just below average even into the autumn as well. There was a little bit of a wetter spell of weather there, but still not enough to take us above average. And then much of the winter time, the winter 2018-19, below average too. And this map just released a few days ago showing that we've continued that trend across the East Midlands, southeastern England, and East Anglia, with being below average in terms of rainfall. So that has had a lot of knock-on effects, and one of them is obviously on the soil moisture. So the red dots and triangles here showing soil moisture sensors that are showing very dry soils across the UK. In fact, you have to go into northern parts of Ireland and into Scotland to see something a little bit wetter there. So a pretty dry scenario, and that has meant that the Environment Agency has set up the National Drought Group to look at support for farmers and wildlife, particularly in terms of irrigation and extracting water as we go through the summer, and they'll continue to monitor the situation. But if you want to know more information about that, if you go to the Environment Agency website or Google National Drought Group, I think you'll find plenty of information and the report that they released just a few days ago. So for the forecast for us, the jet stream has been very active over the last few days, dipping down into the Bay of Biscay and across France. France dealing with some very strong wind gusts on the 7th of June as well. There could be some damage across northern parts of France from that, and also helping to develop an area of low pressure. The rainfall though on the 7th of June, this is WQRadar image here showing the bright yellows and oranges and reds showing where the heavy rain is. We've already recorded close to an inch of rain across parts of southern England as this has moved northwards, and it'll continue to track northwards over the next couple of days. So this is the evening of Friday the 7th of June, and as this goes into motion, we will see that low does drift away to the north and east of the UK and leaves us a little bit drier. But this is Saturday with the showers popping up and then dying away Saturday night, then Sunday showers popping up again. So over the next 3 or 4 days, we get into a pattern where we talk about diurnal showers. So the sun comes up and heats up the land, and we get showers popping up, and some of those could be quite heavy, but otherwise we are a sun sunny and dry. So it's going to be quite variable in terms of rainfall amounts between Saturday the 8th of June through till the early part of next week, where you're under a shower, maybe 5-10 millimeters of rain quite quickly, but there'll be many areas that stay dry as well, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So if you want to keep up with WQRadar yourself, you can go to wqradar.co.uk and find out about that service. You can put it on your mobile phone or tablet, and that will give you access to 5-minute radar data, real-time rainfall basically. It also shows you weather observations from the official Met Office network, and you can get yourself email alerts and SMS text message alerts for lightning that's nearby, and we've also got an archive section there as well. So this graph showing us the potential water gain or water loss over the next 10 days, looking at our ensemble forecast that we talk about. So we run a computer model lots of different times with slightly different starting conditions to see what the potential is over that next 10-day period. So starting off on Friday with the rain, you can see it takes it a little bit above the line here. So basically the green is showing the ground wetter than where you've started, and the brown area showing the ground would be a little bit drier than where we started at the moment. As we go through that period with the diurnal showers that I talked about Saturday through Monday, generally speaking the sunshine probably outweighing the showers, and you can see that water gain, water loss drops back down to about 0 through the first part of next week, and then a big uncertainty in the forecast as we go toward the middle and end of next week, and there is a potential there for some quite heavy downpours again toward the Wednesday, Thursday period of the coming week, which could mean that many areas end up wetter than average. So on average, with all those computer models run, about 20 millimeters of rain wetter than where we are at the moment to end next week. So that's good news if you're looking for that rainfall in those areas where the soil moisture is quite dry. So the pressure pattern as we go into the early part of next week, there's high pressure over the Baltic states, and that's keeping it very warm in those areas, in fact very hot in those areas, with some scattered showers and thunderstorms. So the darker blue colors indicating those showers, and you can see in across the Baltic states down into Belarus and Poland quite a bit of sunshine and hot weather. But across Central Europe and across Western Europe, low pressure dominating, so bringing us slightly cooler and wetter conditions, and that's really highlighted in the temperature anomaly that takes us through the 12th of June. So cooler than normal conditions across much of the British Isles, France, and down into Iberia. You get across central and western parts or eastern parts of Europe though, and we're looking at temperatures into the 30s by the daytimes. In fact, mid-30s temperatures across parts of western Russia over the next few days. So a big contrast from one side of the continent to the other. Rainfall wise, cooler conditions, also wetter conditions across Western Europe. So this is a welcome sign for many looking for rain, just highlighting the fact that it is a little bit wetter than average for the next week, but still dealing with the drier than average conditions across western parts of Russia, and the scattered showers really going to make a mess of trying to figure out the anomalies through Eastern Europe, I think, during week 1. The pattern doesn't change very much into week 2, so still dealing with cooler than normal conditions across western parts of Europe, and I should say warmer than normal conditions across eastern parts of Europe, and the rainfall anomaly sort of similar there as well. So still looking at slightly wetter than average conditions across the British Isles and parts of Western Europe. So again, highlighting the help that was on the way really over the next 10 to 14 days. Otherwise, though, still fairly dry across Eastern Europe and into Western Russia. Now, a bit of a change into week 3, some warmer than normal temperatures starting to extend a little bit further west into Europe, and we'll start to see temperatures and rainfall coming back closer to average, drier than average across central parts of Europe, still wetter than average in northwestern parts of the British Isles. So still some weather systems brushing the northwest, but it does look like we start to dry out a little bit into central and southeastern parts of Britain into week 3. Then into week 4, an anomaly showing slightly warmer than normal conditions. So the only week out of the 4-week period showing warmer than normal temperatures is actually into the first part of July. So a bit of a signal there for higher pressure, I think, to become a bit more established and a bit more of a southerly wind flow as well. And also with that high pressure establishing, I think we will start to see things drying out. So there's also a signal for a drier week too. So heading back into something a bit warmer and drier, it looks like, into the first part of July after a couple of unsettled weeks to come. So just to sum all of that up, unsettled through the middle part of June, generally cooler than average conditions as well. Then we see that transition to something a bit more settled by the end of the month, and temperatures as we go into early July starting to get just above average for the time of year. Thanks for watching the Weatherquest Farming Forecast. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at info@weatherquest.co.uk, or on Twitter you can hashtag the Farming Forecast at WQ Farming Forecast.